we have a preview for tonight's NWA Nuff Said pay-per-view, which will be live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Fight.tv. And Kerry Morton will defend the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship against Alex Taylor, Scion against Homicide for the national title, La Rebellion, Bestia 666, and Mecha Wolf against Blood Force, Trauma, Carnage, and Damage for the NWA Tag Team titles. Chris Adonis against Trevor Murdoch, EC3 against Kevin Kiley, the former Alex Riley, Thomas Lattimore versus Fodder in a Singapore Cane match, Thrill Billy Silas against Kratos, Odasan against Joe Alonzo on the pre-show, Mercutio and Natalia Markov against Genocide and Max the Impaler, Dak Draper, Matthew Mims versus Jack Stain and Blake Troop, and Miss Kate and La Rosa Negra on the pre-show as well. But those were the pre-show matches and the other matches on the card. We also have Pretty Empowered Kenzie Page and Ella Envy against Charlotte Renegade and Robin Renegade for the NWA World Women's Tag Team titles. Angelina Love goes for the Women's World Championship in a no-holds-barred match against Camilla. And of course, Sweet Charlotte, the NWA World Championship. No one else allowed at ringside. Tyrus defends against Matt Cardona. When Tyrus won the title back in November, a lot of people were dumbfounded that they went with Tyrus instead of Matt Cardona. But I think Cardona's contract and the possibility of him joining his wife, Chelsea, in WWE was one of the reasons why they went with Tyrus. And also, because everybody expected him to go with Matt Cardona, they went with Tyrus. Basically, they did it because nobody expected it. I mean, do I understand the idea of people being upset about it, people not liking it, people, thinking that they could have went a different way, done something better? Yes. But do I think it was a good decision because it threw people off and, went a completely different direction and allowed them to have another pay-per-view match with those guys? Yeah. I mean, I think you probably could have went with Trevor Murdoch and accomplished the same thing, but still, good for Billy Corgan for taking a risk. It's not a risk that I can't understand, if that makes sense. One thing, I think I mentioned this the last time I talked about NWA's upcoming pay-per-view event, is one of the reasons why I like other companies being successful and being in a good position is because it allows people that you didn't even know were still wrestling to be featured in wrestling. Featured on a nationally syndicated wrestling show. And, I mean, well, this might not technically be a nationally syndicated wrestling show, but it is a national wrestling show because of the fact that it's featured on Fight.tv with EC3 and Kevin Kiley, a.k.a. the former Alex Riley, being featured within the NWA. I didn't even know Alex Riley was still wrestling. Chris Adonis, the former Chris Masters. I, for one, love seeing the guys that used to go within the WWE working elsewhere because it shows that the wrestling business is healthy enough to give those guys work. And it's not just the former WWE guys, it's just guys in general that without the NWA, Jack Stain, for example, without the NWA, would Jack Stain be featured in this prominent way, and as a prominent way? I mean, I don't think so, no. It's also been how many years since I've seen a Singapore Cane match? It's been a long time, I gotta say. It's been a long time since I've seen a Singapore Cane match. But Tyrus, Matt Cardona, I mean, even though it might be close between AIW and the NWA, but I mean, the NWA was one of the companies that showed that they believed in Matt Cardona enough to give him the NWA World Championship. You know, Absolute Intense Wrestling giving Matt Cardona their world title is one thing, but giving a company, you know, the NWA believing in you enough to give you Sweet Charlotte, the 10 pounds of gold, the title that has the legacy of the NWA World Championship. I mean, yes, a company giving you their world title, no matter the company, means a lot, and I completely agree with that. But the NWA World title is not just any world title. It's not just any world title. You know, it's not just any world title. And that's just the reputation that the NWA title has precedes it. Everyone knows the 10 pounds of gold. Everyone knows why that Sweet Charlotte is on a different level than every other title, every other world championship. No matter the champion, Sweet Charlotte is in a league of its own. And you gotta figure that Trevor Murdoch's match and also EC3's match may, like, you could look through this card and say that some of these matches could administer top contendership for the world title, because, I mean, the one thing that may not be acknowledged is where is the NWA's top contenders without Nick Aldis? And I think that may also be the reason that Billy Corgan went with Tyrus at Hard Times 3, because you needed to establish another heel that wasn't Nick Aldis. And with Nick Aldis leaving, I think that threw off everything in a way. But either way, we find out tonight. As Kerry Morton is one of the hottest prospects in wrestling and is on the radar of the major companies, that maybe when his contract is up with the NWA, you could see him down at NXT. It takes a skilled person to get on the radar of the major companies. But Homicide, he's always a pleasure to watch. Kerry Morton is a top prospect. The women's division in NWA is one of the deepest divisions in wrestling, and Camilla is a long-standing champion. Like, I don't remember anybody being the champion outside of Camilla. And of course, there isn't anything that I can say about Sweet Charlotte that I haven't already said, that you guys can see that I hold the NWA World Championship in a different way, in a different regard than every other championship. And also, I just want to point out that the earlier point that I made about Camilla being a long-reigning champion, she has held the title for 615 days, winning it back in June of 2021. So the fact of the matter is, that's the reason why I don't remember anybody else being the NWA World Champion. It's because Camilla has held it for almost 2 years and defended it gracefully. The fact of the matter is, tonight is the NWA's first card in 2022 and 2023, and the building block for what comes next is the Crockett Cup. So either way, will we see a new champion? I guess you're going to have to tune in 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Fight.tv to find out what happens at NWA. Nuff said. See you in the next video.